So today's episode almost didn't happen. That's because in the pre-interview with Gene Moran, he told us, look, guys, I don't have like a terrible family life. I haven't had a bunch of trauma happen to me. And then we hit the pause button with him. We said, hold on, though. You do have a story about overcoming an obstacle, and that's the thing that people can relate to. Hi, I'm Mathew Blades, and today we're going to sit down with artist and musician Gene Moran. You see, Gene's got cerebral palsy, and he didn't like or think that he could get up on stage and sit in a wheelchair, put his guitar on his lap, and play it without looking stupid. Those are his words, not ours. So we're going to shake that bit out here. And then we're also going to have a little bit of fun and talk about a songwriting process, that guitar that he was handed down, and a whole lot more. So welcome to a quick episode today, only about 40 minutes, with Gene Moran, Dr. David Leicken, and myself, Mathew Blades, here on Learn from People Who Lived It. Enjoy it.
Find Learn from People Who Lived It wherever you get podcasts. Search it using all one word. Learn from People Who Lived It.
Welcome to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It.
Oh my God, Dave, are you and I in for a treat today? Welcome to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It. Typically on this podcast, me, Dr. Dave, Dr. Frank, we sit down with somebody who's gone through some unbelievable experience in their life and they've found their way out of it. And they've put themselves in a place where now they're achieving, they're doing great things, and they are killing it in their life. And while today's story certainly has elements of that, in our pre-conversations with Gene, he was pretty clear to say yo, bro, I had a great childhood. My parents were good to me. There's a lot of good pieces to all of the things. He just happens to be somebody who was born with cerebral palsy, and he had to overcome this obstacle to get to the point where he is today. So you're asking yourself, where is he today? Dave, I'm going to answer that question by playing something for you. You all right with that?
Go for it.
Okay, first up, welcome to the show. How are you? I guess I should start there. How are you, Dave?
It's good as always to be here.
Okay, listen to what this dude does. You ready?
There's a picture of me wedged in the frame of a mirror, taken when I was 3, holding an electric guitar just like a rock and roll star. I played rhythm, he played lead. He was a talented man, played in a shitload of bands. He could make a guitar scream. I got a call one day, said he had passed away, and there was something handed down to me. It was a beautiful thing, 2 humbuckers and strings. It could make your eardrums ring. I plugged it into my amp, and when I started to vamp, hey man, it sounded oh so sweet.
All right, that's just a taste of what Gene Moran sounds like. You ready to bring him in?
Do it.
Let's go, man. Gene,
What's up?
Brilliant. How are you, pal?
Yeah. Hey, I'm doing great. You know what's funny is you played that song, and the opening line to that song is right behind me. If you look in that mirror right there, there's a picture of me wedged in the frame of the mirror taken when I was 3. That's where I got that line from. I was in my living room right here watching TV, and I'm like, I wanted to write a song about an inherited guitar I inherited from my uncle, and I'm like, I just thought about it for weeks, and then it just, I'm looking right at it. I'm like, there's a picture of me wedged in the frame of a mirror taken when I was like, well, and then that opening line's right there.
Isn't that
As it was
brilliant?
wild, huh? Yeah.
That is so cool.
That's a true
So
story.
Gene, you're a Mesa, Arizona, but you split some time in San Diego, California,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing Arizona's home.
Yeah.
And now you're a dude who gets on the stage and you jam out and you sing. And it's clear to me, are you a big Dylan fan? Because you have a real similar throttle to that.
Okay. Well, the thing is that I don't think I can sing that well, but I just try to stay in the pocket and try to do the best I can, because I don't consider myself a singer, but I think my strength is in songwriting. So that's so as long as I don't go too outside my ability, then I just stay in the pocket and I'll be all right,
I know that you're not this guy who experienced all this trauma and had these huge obstacles to overcome, but in a manner of speaking, your story does have parts of that. There is something to overcome, right? And you say in your bio, like, when you were 15 years old, you always wanted to be in bands like your friends in high school. But you said, quote, "I had a hang up about being disabled and playing on the stage, and I thought I would look stupid." So a lot of people can resonate with that. A lot of people can resonate with this idea of like, I want to do this thing, but I'm afraid I'm going to look stupid when I do it. And so that in and of itself is kind of a universal theme for so many people. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Dave?
Yeah, it's definitely worth going into.
We're going to start there, just spend a couple of minutes on that. And then I want to get into the music because music is one of my favorite things to talk about too. So let's back up, man. Let's meet this dude, Gene. I mean, are you born with cerebral palsy?
Yeah,
is it something that happens a little later?
No, it's like I think it's kind of like having a stroke at birth, Okay, so I was born in Yuma, Arizona, right? I had my parents, and I had a 2-parent household, which in my opinion, like, I'm glad that like my mom and dad was there, because my mom was very coddling, very like, "Oh, mijo, no," and my dad's more like, "No, let him go do his thing," But my dad also like had me do chores. Like, I remember being a kid and like being like maybe like 9 and having to pull weeds, and I'm like, I'm disabled. What am I doing pulling weeds? But I thought that, looking back, he's just building a work ethic, but I think if I was raised by only my mom, I'd still be living at home and she'd still be making me lunch and dinner and take, you know what I mean? So, and then I also had my sister who was like a second mom. Like, she was always real cool to me. And so, but how they found out I had cerebral palsy is that like when like around 6 months, my mom told me when babies start to crawl, I wasn't crawling normally. And like I'd crawl, she said, like a soldier that's under barbed wire, like kind of like with your elbows and just dragging my legs. And then whenever she sat me up, I'd fall like to the side. And so she took me to the doctor, Dr. Cannell, who was my pediatrician. And this is also what's crazy. And this is when I'm 6 months old. He coined my nickname, Mean Gene, who like 43 years later became like my name that I perform under. And it was given to me by a totally different guy in San Diego. And I had no idea that was even going to happen. It's really weird, but
yeah, well, my first run-in with cerebral palsy, I was going to share this story today on the podcast. I grew up in a real blue-collar home, and mom and dad didn't have much extra, but thank God I did have an aunt and uncle, and they were both really successful, and they lived in Dallas, Texas. And when I got to be about 10 years old, my uncle would fly up to Minnesota, and I would jump on the airplane with him, and he would fly me back down to Dallas, Texas. And I would go down there every summer for like 3 weeks. And the coolest part about going to Dallas, Texas meant that I got to see this dude named Marty. Marty was a kid who was my age, who lived in Dallas, and my aunt and uncles, they knew his parents. And Marty had cerebral palsy. It wasn't to the extent where he was in a wheelchair, but he had to wear leg braces. But he was still really active. Like, we went to water parks together. We went to parks together. And we had this really active thing. And similar to you, he never seemed to let it get in the way of anything that he wanted to do. And I love that was my first look into that, that neurological condition. It was a kid who was like, yeah, fuck it, man. Like, I got it, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do.
Right on. Yeah. Hell yeah. Cool.
Dave, do you know enough about cerebral palsy to break down a little bit about, help people explain what's happening?
Well, I mean, there's something that jumped out at me with this, like the fact that your dad made you pull weeds. You're just getting out there and doing things. I mean, you're going to have the same objection to pulling weeds as any kid would.
Totally.
Weeds, right?
Yeah. But there were also pluses, like seriously, like he also, like when I wanted to go quad riding and get quads, he's like, yeah, you can go ride quads, or I wanted to drive. Like, yeah, we'll figure out how to get you hand controls and a truck and stuff. And so that's that. My mom probably wouldn't be having it, man.
Right.
Well, and I think that's the risk, is that there's a split where you could on the one hand embrace the disability and say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, and then you end up limiting yourself. But I think the right way to do it is the way that your dad was encouraging you, is how can we how can we rig the truck so you can drive it? How can we get you on a quad? And then you get into this problem solving where, so you just have to do things a little differently than other people, but the hard no isn't there, right? You just got to figure out like how to make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lesson for other people that are listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Explain to us cerebral palsy from the neurological standpoint, Dr. Dave, as you know it.
Well, it's a muscle coordination problem.
Okay.
Basically, right? So you're not able to coordinate the large muscle movements.
Yeah, and fine motor skill, like gross and fine motor skills are whack. That's why I can't believe I could play guitar, but I figured out a way. It's kind of like
that's kind of why I walked you to that because yes, there is that thing about the fine motor skills and the muscle, but you've overcome it, man. Like you found a way around it. And we could wrap this podcast up in 15 minutes, I feel like. Like this is what the message is for every damn podcast that we ever tape. I know you have a problem. I know you have an obstacle. Find a new way to think about it and overcome it. Get on the stage. That's the message. Yeah. Podcast is over. Thanks for coming, everybody.
All right. See you guys later.
I'd like to hear that story.
See ya.
How did you overcome the resistance to getting up on stage? What was that?
Yeah.
What was the thought process like there? And how did you say, let's do it?
Okay. Honestly, I think I believed in my songwriting. I believed in it, but I was still chicken to show people. But I showed this guy, Joe Pena, who's he's a well-respected songwriter in Tucson, Arizona. He's awesome. In fact, we just recorded a song a couple weeks ago. But I showed him my songs. I showed him a song called St. Luke's, and him and a buddy Van Christian. They were like, "Wow, this is good stuff." He's all, "You should play this out." And I told him like, I think I don't want to look stupid in a wheelchair up on stage. But then he told me I was stupid for thinking I'd look stupid, and I should really try this because Joe's the kind of guy that if that song sucked. He wouldn't even waste his time, and he told me, no, let's record this. Let's do it. I can get my band to back you up. And he was like supportive. And then so I'm thinking, if Joe believes, I'm just going to try it. So I did an open mic one night with the guy who plays guitar on the song that Mathew just played. And we did an open mic at the Yucca Tap Room in Tempe. And I thought I didn't think it sucked, but I didn't think I did my best delivery because I played 100 times way better in my bedroom, just by myself. But this girl came up to me afterwards and she said, "That was amazing." And I'll never forget that. I was like, wow. I never looked back since that day. Never.
Really?
Yeah, really, really.
There is this quote that I absolutely love, and I think it comes from a Tribe Called Quest song. And the lyric goes, "It doesn't take a whole day to recognize sunshine." And I think that's what happened for you. It's like somebody came up and said, "Bro, that was incredible." And you believed them. Like so many people would have been like, "Nah, wasn't that good. I could do better." But you just told me you listened, you believed her. Where do you think that came from? Was she speaking the truth to you? Could you just tell?
Well, she told me that when I went up there, she didn't know what to expect, and she actually thought I was gonna like rap, and I'm like, rap. I'm like, I went up there with an acoustic guitar, but she said it wasn't what she expected, and it was really good, and I believed her, and then that's all I need. Actually, all I really needed was Joe's push because like I said, he's a very straightforward guy. He wouldn't waste his time. He believed in me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's awesome. He's just a great songwriter. And that's really what gave it to me.
So we'll start to wind down this part of the podcast, but Dave, there it is, right? Somebody believes in him. And for any of us who are trying to overcome an obstacle or trying to get things in gear, speak to the power and speak more appropriately, Dave, like why that outside influence has such an impact on us.
Yeah. A lot of times we think about doing things and or you have an idea or whatever. And that self-doubt can really get you. And just having somebody else there to kind of push you along, once you get going and the momentum is there, and you try it and you find your groove with something, then it becomes easier to keep going with it. But that initial resistance, a lot of times it just takes one person to stand alongside of you and give you that encouragement to at least try.
Yeah.
There's another thing that jumps out at me here. Gene, you seem like a very positive person. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of positive energy coming from you. And that goes back, like what you're bringing up on the podcast is the flip side of what we often see with people that are very negative. You get what you're looking for in life. So if you're gonna project negative energy, and if you're gonna talk about constantly like how shitty everything is and how nothing ever works out, that's exactly what's going to happen. On the flip side, if you're looking for opportunities, if you're looking, for things to go your way, if you feel generally positive about things and think, expect well of other people, you're going to bring the best out in the people around you, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
That's what all my bandmates in California say, and I'm like, oh, that's the California stuff, and they're like, no, for real, man. You're like, you give off good energy, you get back good energy, and I'm like,
That's it.
I'm just being myself. I'm not trying to I don't know.
Well, you're not trying to manipulate it, but that's the way it goes.
But well, that's good. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll take it. That's a plus. I'm down with that. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about your career as a teacher, briefly. I know you spent 20 plus years in Arizona teaching. What were you teaching? What kind of teacher were you?
Okay. Well, I'd like to say, this is a funny story, is I always say that my fake ID paved the way to my future. So I had a fake ID, right? And I was in Yuma, and I went in a bar, and I ran into my old adaptive PE teacher, who was now a vice principal at the junior high he used to go with. And his name was Mr. Doherty. He passed away. He was a cool guy. He was my adaptive PE teacher back in the 80s. And so I ran into him at a bar, and he's like, Moran, what are you doing here? You're not old enough. And I'm like, yeah, I'm old enough. And he's like, yeah, right. And he's like, what are you doing right now? And I'm like, well, I'm going to junior college, just doing general studies. And he's like, well, I'm the vice principal at Gila Vista now, and I think you'd make a great teacher. Why don't you come in on Monday, and I'll give you a job being a teacher's aide. So I went in there and I checked it out, and it was cool. I had a good rapport with the kids, and I thought it was something I could do in a wheelchair. It's a good job. It's a state job. It's a government job. I thought it'd just be perfect. So I spent a semester doing that, and then transferred to ASU and got a degree in education in elementary ed. And I did 21 years with the Mesa Public School system, bouncing around between 5th and 6th grade mostly. And you know what's crazy? I bought a truck 2 months ago, and I ran into my old student who was a salesman there. It was great. He was like, yeah. It made me feel so old. I was like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, get ready. That shit just keeps happening.
No kidding. Yeah.
The worst, though, is when you hear songs that you grew up listening to in high school on the oldies station.
Oh, I know. Yeah, classic rock is not Nirvana,
right.
But it is.
So that's the door open for me to go into music. Gene, who were some of your influences, man? What kind of music did you listen to that got you geared up to be what you are today?
Okay, well, the first record I ever bought.
All right, this is good. We're all going to go around the room and ask first album.
Right,
first
cool.
record you ever bought.
So, okay, it was The Cure, Standing on a Beach, which is like it's a greatest hits album on a record. It was the first record I ever consciously. I always listened to indie rock. Like, I listened to 120 Minutes on MTV growing up. So everything that flew under the radar, and I still do. I listen to Sirius XMU. I always listen to indie rock since I was 13. I've always have.
Dave, first album you ever picked up, what was it?
First vinyl album I ever bought, I think it was U2 Under a Blood Red Sky, the old Live at Red Rocks.
That's Red Rocks, yeah.
Yeah. My first album was The Boss, Born in the USA.
Oh, cool.
My first cassette was Beastie Boys, License to Ill.
License to Ill.
You know, and to this day, they remain one of my favorite bands. And so, where do you get your sound from now? Does it have influence of some of these other bands, or is this just pure Mean Gene?
Well, what I think it is this. I always say that they're real simple because they're 3-4 chords. They're basically like nursery rhymes, adult themed nursery rhymes. So that's what I think because when I learned how to play, right? When I learned how to figure out how to get a G, C, D, E minor, I'm like, okay, I can do those. But I wasn't proficient enough to do a cover song, like play a cover song. So I'm like, okay, let me try to write a song. And I'm like, well, what do I write about? And I'm like, well, I know a lot of people who have messed up their lives and that, made poor decisions. And so I started writing about people drinking, depression, anxiety, getting your ass whipped, all kinds of stuff. And those songs really, like, people are like, wow, that's about me. And that's how I get my set. They're basically, they can translate from like an acoustic song to a hard rock song to a folk rock song, because it's all based on the song and it's a real simple structure. And if you can, like the Sardines, Mean Gene and the Green Sardines, that's a full-on 6-piece rock and roll band. But then me and Keith Perillo can turn around and do a duo set and just kill it that way. It's all based on, it's all about the song.
So
I mean, the Ramones made a career on 3 chords.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, 3 chords of 1-minute songs, just rocking out. Yeah.
do you what kind of a musician are you? Does the melody find you first? Do the lyrics find you first? Is it a combination of the both?
Okay, I always say that I don't really write the songs. The opening line comes and falls on my lap with a melody. That's how it happens. That's just
There's
like
a picture of me
wedged in the frame of the mirror right there. It was right in front of me. Boom. They all happen like that. That's it. Yeah, they all happen.
What was the first song you ever wrote?
It's called Missing Pieces. It was about a buddy of mine who I always say when he drinks too much, he forgets too much. And it's about forgetting what he did the night before. It's serious. And it's called Missing Pieces.
Are you typically guitar in hand? Are you at a piano? Do you have another musician that you like to bounce off with? Where does that go?
What I do is if I don't have my guitar with me, I have voice memos. So I just go la 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 la, and I have a ton of those, and I have enough material to keep me and my buddies busy for seriously 5 years, and we're still recording. We're re-recording old stuff, doing new stuff. I have a lot of favorite songs too that I've written, like one called "Live to Die" that's about a bunch of near-death, how would you say, dodging death by each one of somebody in my family or friends, like having a heart attack, surviving going to war, being in a wheelchair from falling off a deck, all kinds of stuff like that, but they're all true stories. They're all true stories.
What kind of feedback do you get from your audience after you perform? What are people like? Are you the kind of musician where people walk up to you after and they're like, "That really hit me. That was such an impactful song. That's going to change the way I look at life." What kind of feedback do you get?
Well, one thing that I get that's kind of wild is a lot of times the people, people like to hear the story before I do a real quick, just a real quick introduction about what the song's about and then play it. And a lot of people tell me they like that because I write songs about what's one that I wrote a song about anxiety and it goes don't want to call a doctor. I'm knocking on death's door. Well, now I forgot why. I know the day was coming. You'll find me lying on the floor, but I just keep on going. Life goes by in a flash. And it goes, smoking cigarettes for breakfast. My dinner's alcohol. 2 hours of shut-eye if I even sleep at all, but I just keep on going. Life goes by in a flash. And people are like, I know what that's like, And so
what's one of your favorite songs that you've written? So tell us a little bit about it and then maybe give us a little bit of the song.
Okay. I don't know. They all mean
they're all your
different-
Children.
They all, yeah. They all mean, but I think maybe Rock and Roll Stars. That one's actually about me because like whenever I run into family and friends who don't really know what I've been doing and they find out, they're like, hey, what's up, rock star? And I'm very uncomfortable with that because I lack swagger. I'm not cool. I'm in a wheelchair. Although I do say I'm rock and roll. I'm more roll than rock.
It's so good,
you know?
Yeah.
But it goes like this. It's basically about how I'm uneasy about the title rock star, but I consider myself a songwriter. And in the chorus of that song, I make reference to who, in my opinion, are the epitome of rock and rollers, is the Rolling Stones. But it goes like this. I could never be a rock and roll star. It's not meant for me. I don't do hard drugs and I'm not a big drinker, but I get stoned occasionally. And then it goes, leave it to Mick, leave it to Keith, Ronnie and Charlie. It's not for me. You know, that's one of them. You know,
that's so cool. I want to pivot from music just for a second because Dr. Dave and I have a 6-week wellness course that we put people through, and it really is designed for people who kind of feel like they're in a rut and they feel stuck. Okay. And, you know, we have 6 steps that we walk people through. And Dave, week 4, as you and I both know, is what's so funny. And we talk about the importance of humor. And we talk about how humor is just such a critical element in all of our healing. And so, Dave, I'm going to ask you to explain why it's so important and give us your spin on it. And then, Gene, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask you about your sense of humor and how humor has played a role in your situation. Okay. So, Dave, first why did we pick humor in our series?
Well, I can tell you what hit me about humor and looking at my own life and how I use humor. Humor for me comes out of some of the darkest places. I could find something humorous in, like I said, some really dark situations, and being able to find humor, being able to laugh at some of the absurd things, some of the things that just don't make sense. You know, when now, you know, the 5th thing has gone wrong today, to be able to just step back and kind of laugh about the irony of it. It brings kind of a salve over the wounds. And kind of gives you a little bit of renewed strength to get through the situation, instead of feeling like, okay, that's it, it's over, I'm just going to go to bed and hopefully I don't even wake up tomorrow. And
then we also talk about the importance of humor in laughing at yourself, right? And these moments where you mess something up. And so many of us have a tendency to get down on ourselves or get serious about it. But that ability to just laugh at yourself. So, Gene, now we're at you. How has humor impacted you in your life?
Well, my dad is a lot like me. Like, we always like doing puns and dad jokes and stuff like that. So, I mean, I can find humor in everything. I find humor in myself, you know. And maybe I might use humor, like even with myself, like among strangers, like I'm meeting somebody, like, okay, like to make a waiter or a server at a restaurant, kind of ease things up, whatever. I'm always like, table for 2, and and I brought my own chair, and they'll be like, that's a good one. Or sometimes they'll be like, oh, do I laugh at that or do I not laugh at that? It's, you know, but I just mess around, and it helps, whatever, you know, because I don't want them to be like afraid of me either, you know, or like, you know, so I'll loosen it, you know, but I'm really cool to a lot of people. Like, I just know how to handle myself, you know?
Yeah.
And,
well, and I think what's true about you, man, is just again, I've probably said it 5 times already, but just the way that you present, it just lends itself to like not even letting most of that shit in. It's like nobody, why would they go there?
And if you can joke about yourself, then that's not a vulnerability that anybody could ever take advantage of.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What is somebody going to say that's going to insult you if you're already making jokes about it?
But again, I think like for what I'm doing right now, you have to be able to take crap because if you're putting yourself out there on stage, you know, I mean, you got to be able to deal with criticism or people talking shit, you know? I mean, I think,
and everybody occasionally has an off night too. So it's
oh yeah, God, yeah.
You're going to experience that, right? Yeah, you can't let that negativity discourage you from going back on stage.
No.
Let me go back to music for just a second. How did you learn to play the guitar on your lap? Was that difficult?
Okay. So check this out. So I've always wanted to play, and so like when I was 15, that's when 13, 15, 16. teenager years, all my friends played in bands, but we're not talking the marching band. We're talking like rock and roll, the Gibsons, Fenders, all that stuff. And so I always wanted to play. And I'm like, well, I want to figure out how to play. And so my friends would be all, well, try open tuning, do open tuning, which is like a non-standard way of tuning. And I did that for a while, but whenever I would go over to my friend's house without a guitar, their guitars were in standard tuning. So I don't want to detune their guitars and figure this and to do it to an open tuning. So I figured out a way to get a G, D, C, E minor, A in a way that by muting strings and letting certain strings ring out, I could get a G, I could get all the chords you need for a song. And that's how I found it. And when I found it, and people always think, hey, is that guitar in open tuning? I'm like, no, it's standard. And they're like, wow.
Yeah. Have you played like slide guitar? Any of these other ones that are traditionally in a lot?
No, because I think to play slide, you need to be able to get in between each little string and go bam, bam. As where me, I play right-handed. So I'm strumming with my right hand and doing the chords with my left. And so basically I'm just playing the drums with my right hand, going to just keep it time. And then just the chords ring out, and then I'm just changing the chords, and that's how it works.
All right, listen, so many cool things about today's episode and so many great things to highlight. And when I walked into the conversation here with me and Gene, I was like, I didn't know what was going to come. I didn't know what this podcast was going to sound like because, it isn't the traditional road that we go down. But all in all, I have to give you big props, man. There's been a lot of great lessons in your story here. There's so many commonalities, maybe not the exact same circumstance in terms of, having CP, but, people have obstacles. They've got things about themselves that they don't like. They've got things about themselves that they have to overcome. And there's just so many great pieces to your story that I'm confident you're gonna find some success, and I mean it. As soon as you and I hang up with this podcast today, there's a couple of dudes that I'm gonna reach out to, and I'm just gonna make sure that they know about you. For folks, as we wind down, for folks who are like, they've listened to this and they're like, shit, I gotta go see this guy play. Do you have a home base? Do you have a place where we can typically find you playing?
Live or on like
yes,
streaming?
Live for sure.
Okay, well, I have a gig coming up at Focal on Friday. We're going at 8:00, and it's me and Keith Perillo. Keith Perillo was one of the first guys that he's an awesome guy, awesome lead guitarist. We've been playing together for like 10 years, and he's awesome. And we're playing a duo that night. So. But the next gig, I don't know when the next gig, but it seems like they always pop up like, watch, I'm going to hang up and then I'm going to get another gig, But I play in San Diego, I play in Phoenix, I play in Tucson, and I'm looking to play more places as well.
Okay. Dave, any final thoughts from you as we start to wind down with Gene this afternoon?
Yeah, there's another thing that kind of jumped out at me. With most of the podcasts that we do, the guests that we have on, we're kind of going along with their life, and then something happened that kind of caused them to detour, and then they found their way back on track again, and we're talking to them on the other side of things. So there's that struggle of anticipating that you're going to be on a particular path, getting derailed, and then finding your way back. I think what's interesting with Gene's case is, what's normal is what you grow up with, right? And what people experience in different households, what they grow up with is normal for them. So dealing with this and overcoming this has been just kind of a normal part of your day-to-day routine, where for other people that have gotten derailed, you have to let go of expectations that you had before. Where you had the opportunity to kind of set your expectations right away, as opposed to thinking that things had to be a particular way and then having to let go of that and try to find your way back to it again.
I'm glad that we connected. I know that it took a second, but I'm glad we pushed through, and I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we got your story out there.
I'm glad you're better.
It helps. Yes. Well, for sure.
Yeah.
Skin cancer is no joke. Wear your sunscreen, everybody.
Yeah, no kidding.
Any final thoughts from you, Gene, as we wrap up? Anything that you were kind of hoping to leave with people today?
I just want to say like I am so fortunate that I'm so glad that I took the step that I did and just went for it, because if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be having half the cool stuff happen to me. Like there's so many cool things that have happened to me where like one day I was like, I saw this awesome singer-songwriter called Todd Snyder. And then after the show, like this guy came up to me and he's like, "Hey, are you Gene?" And I thought I was going to get mugged, but then he came out, but then it turned out he was the booker to the Belly Up. And he's like, "Dude, I've seen your show and I really like your music." And then he went to the tour bus and got the opening act from the tour bus, and a guy named Daniel Rodriguez. And the three of us were listening to my songs in my truck after that concert, and they're discussing like, "Well, who do you think he could open up with? Oh, this stuff is so cool." And I'm like, what is going on? It was just the craziest thing. And then check this out. He's like, "I want to help you get a website and get a business card, and I'll get you a gig." And so I did. It took a year, but then after that year, dude, we got an opening slot for Chris Schiff for the Foo Fighters. I've opened up for the White Buffalo. I've opened up for a lot of national acts, and all just like, think about that. I've been on stages that I've watched my heroes play on, and that's nuts. Right? I mean, come on.
Of course it is, man. People don't, I mean, there's all kinds of statistics out there about like how hard it is to make it to the NFL. And I will tell people,
I'm not pro.
Yeah,
no
but
way.
but listen, it is equally as hard to make it as a musician. I mean, it is. There's such a small group of people that get to do what you do. Trust me, there's a million garage bands out there that would relish the opportunity just to share the stage with some of the people that you've mentioned so far.
But in short, check this out. If someone were whispering in my ear, "Dude, when you're 50, you'll be doing what you're doing. You'll be on stage at the Belly Up opening up for so-and-so." I'd be like, "Get the fuck out of here. No way that's going to happen." And it did. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
We have 3 goals with Learn from People Who Lived It. 1. To help you feel less alone. 2. Encourage you to seek out a coach, a therapist, a church, anyone who can help you get through your journey and find some healing. 3. When you're ready, share your story with us.
Find Learn from People Who Lived It wherever you get podcasts. Search it using all one word. Learn from People Who Lived It.